Hi students, how are you? We're in the final hours here of week 8, the end of the class. And it's been a lot of fun. And I know it has been a lot of work for you and a fair amount for me, but you stayed engaged and you really did well. This could be a little longer than usual. I'm going to talk fast though. I want to cover 3 things, as I mentioned: the papers, the DB shoutouts, and some closing comments to make sure my own thinking and that of Philip Outback. The papers were really very good. They're not all in, so I can't overly generalize, but I've read some of extremely high quality, and I'm very pleased with that. And I can tell all of you worked quite hard on that, and I've given lots of comments, as you'll note if you've looked at my grades. If you have questions, please let me know. Even though the course closes tonight, I can obviously still answer questions. You can email me directly, or when I'm still checking the course, I'm still working in the course. Grades have to be in by Tuesday at noon. Um, in terms of the categories of the rubric, the focus, all of you pretty much hit it. That wasn't a problem. If your abstract was too brief or missed the main points of that category, you might have lost a point there. Research quality did vary. I was fair. And for the most part, I was very pleased. I mean, everybody pretty much stayed up to the bar that was set. Informative, no problem. You were there. Evaluative here, some of you may have lost a few points because I was really looking in each citation your critical thinking, where in terms of the historical context, in terms of the opinions of the authors, or how the research may be applied, or the one of our 3 theories. So that you may have lost there. Format, again, you pretty much, there was no problem there for just about all of you. All right. So I'm pleased. It's not over till it's over, but those of you whose papers are done, you can read my comments and you can see what your grade is. So in terms of the discussion board question, our last one this week, and last week, another additional 5 points. You were asked to compare and contrast 1 or 2 of the articles having to do with your own practice, the alleged U.S. hegemony in higher education in the future, and/or the future of higher education, as well as the NIAS piece, which I thought was the accreditation piece. I thought was particularly interesting. I'm going to just go over quickly some of the shout outs to shoot. Anna, talked about quality assurance and the fact that internationalism of accreditation standards is going to mean big influences on teaching, learning, and competencies. That's certainly the case, but we're a long way from any generalized agreement. I know the Europeans are closer, but it's yet to be seen what's going to happen throughout the world with this. Donna made an interesting point that such an effort at the global context, in terms of the Bologna Declaration, has big influences on liberal arts. How liberal arts is taught in one society as opposed to another is quite different. So the Western canon, so to speak, does not necessarily apply. Liz and Alex talked about a new assessment piece, the U multi-rank assessment piece, which I really didn't know that much about, and I greatly appreciated both of you writing about that. And Liz pointed out that it's very good, and it does have some contrast with the Obama so-called rating plan, but based also on the categories of graduation rates and unemployment, which really, that's only 2 indices of a wide area that's generally called evidence of student learning. John commented on the article on failure to capitalize on globalization, and he said it was a typical description, good description of his particular employer, and that is that they want to get students in the door, but he said never or rarely is there a mention of the intellectual contributions to the scholarship that these students, international students, often deliver. And that's very true. And Nicole seemed to agree with John on that very same point. I don't think we fully appreciate, even though the research is evident, at least I'm generalizing on mine years ago, the international students are usually in the top 5% academically. They're very high in honors and research, and they're major contributors to the furtherance of knowledge across the United States. With less documentation on their social contributions to the academic life of institutions, but that's an area ripe for research. Raymond from Hong Kong talked about his college, and however, in terms of the international students' appreciation, he said that they're often turned down as the staff perceives that their presence would mean more work teaching them how to acclimate themselves to Hong Kong. Boy, that doesn't sound familiar to any part of the world. So thank you for sharing that point, Raymond. And my last shout out is going to be to the most recent post that you may have saw from Marcia, who went to great length talking about the historical context and that the proponents of internationalization of higher education appear to write their scripts from the middle of the story. Nice statement. I'm not saying I fully agree with you, but I like hearing you're doing it. And that, and she feels that if the technological advancements of the industrial West, which ignited this globalization, then it didn't happen magically. And she goes on to talk about the market model, where higher education is treated like any other goods and services, is treated to the same patterns of flow and the same restraints and treaties and so forth. And she calls for a broader and richer examination of the historical context of these forces. That's quite good, and I appreciate your writing that. And that actually is going to bring me to a little bit of some of my thinking, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the person that I mentioned often is Philip Outback. This is from his text that some of you may have gotten when you first took a course called The Management of Higher Education. This is American Higher Education in the 21st Century, and he has one of the lead chapters on patterns of higher education. And I'm just going to give a few oral bullet points here by way of transition and closure. There's only one common academic model worldwide, and he says, and you don't have to agree with it, it's the basic European university model. He further goes on to say that virtually without exception, the institutional pattern followed by the world's universities derives from these Western models. Like it or not, that's his summation. Further, he goes on and names what most of us know, that English is now recognized as the unquestioned medium of scientific research and communication. Certainly very true. Further, that regardless of political system, the level of economic development, or educational ideology, the expansion of higher education has been the single most important trend worldwide. I'd say that's the most salient comment in his writings. The single most important trend worldwide. About 7% of the relevant age cohort attends post-secondary educational institutions, a statistic that has increased each decade since World War II. And further, he makes a comment here about third world countries present a special set of circumstances. There is unmet demand, an expanding middle class, and continuing population growth in many countries, which means the bulk of the world's higher education growth in the coming decades will be in developing countries. I'm going to close with one more interesting point on globalization and internationalization. Student and faculty mobility, and about 1.5 million students now study abroad throughout the world. A global job market, the internationalization of science and scholarship, and global competition for status are all part of the contemporary landscape. A recognition that internationalization is central to the academic mission of higher education is universal, as exemplified by growing numbers of mobile students and faculty. Okay, those are my salient points. This has been 9 minutes. I hope I didn't bore you. I really enjoyed having you in this class. I hope this work has helped propel you towards some useful resources as you work towards completing your coursework and then getting on your path for a complete dissertation and your doctorate. Thanks very much. I enjoyed being with you. This is the end of the course.